Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Industrial Packaging Podcast with me, your host, Nathan Dube, Digital Marketing Specialist at Industrial Packaging. On today's show, we have special guest, Chad Illa-Petersen from thestorycatcher.com. Chad, welcome to the show.
Hey, Nathan, thanks for having me. I'm excited to get down to it and talk about packaging.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So jumping into the first question is, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your role at your company?
I'm happily married man. I work in the digital marketing world. I do a lot with video and live stream creation. And in fact, I host a show for wave.video every Wednesday where I teach others how to improve their live streaming. So I just enjoy entertaining and working with people.
Awesome. Fantastic. So where can people find you on the web?
Thestorycatcher.com, and I'm on all the socials. Either search for The Story Catcher or Chad Illa-Petersen, because I'm pretty much the only one in the world.
Fair enough. It is a unique name, I will say that. All right, so jumping into question number 3, how would you describe your relationship to product packaging as a consumer?
You know, I don't know that I've ever thought of it as a relationship so much. I think it's one of those things that sitting back and having thought about it, I don't remember thinking a ton about it. So I had to really put on my thinking cap because it's more of those like in the moment type of deals where my relationship with packaging happens. And it's kind of a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And then we really don't talk much after that.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand that. To be fair, didn't think much about packaging before joining this company. But it's funny, having worked in the industry for 3 years, when I go to a supermarket or a department store or I order something on Amazon.com, I'm now hyper aware of the packaging for a product, particularly its ease of use, how well it describes the product contained within. So I can certainly empathize with you there. It's not something that most people consciously think about. It's more of a subconscious topic for most.
Totally agree.
All right, going on to question 4. What is one thing that you love about your favorite brand's packaging?
Okay, I'm going to put a little disclaimer and admit that I had to kind of consult with my wife on this to kind of help my brain get rolling as I thought about some of these questions. But she brought up, and I agree. I am a fan of the way Oreos allows you to easily reseal and reopen their cookies these days.
Mm.
And actually, another one that I actually appreciate is anything I get from Elgato with their live streaming and tech gear. It's packaged very securely, but it's also easy to open.
Yeah, that's a big one. It's very important to have packaging that is easy to open. And I like how you mentioned resealability. I know what you speak of in regards to the Oreo cookies. I believe that's referred to as a flexible pouch, or it's a type of flexible bagging. And if you back up 10, 15 years, you couldn't do that. You'd open the bag and it would stay open. And while it may seem trivial, these are small innovations that major brands like that make. And it does make a difference to people because if you make it easy to open the product and you can reseal it, it has a return customer effect, if you will.
Absolutely. My biggest question is how come cereal hasn't figured it out?
That's funny you say that because while a lot of cereals are still kind of being packaged in the old school way, which is, a cardboard box with kind of a wax bag on the inside, a lot of granola brands I noticed are using flexible pouches, or also known as stand-up pouches, and you tear the top off and it has a zipper so you can reseal it afterwards. But it does seem like a lot of cereals outside of the realm of granola haven't adopted these types of things.
No, I agree. The ones that I typically see cereal-wise that have the resealable bag are usually the generic ones on the cereal aisle. Meanwhile, the others still make me open up the bag that I can't reseal, and that also ends up with half the cereal falling back inside the box, but outside the bag.
Yes, I can absolutely relate to that. That is frustrating. And the flip side of that, I guess, is I'm surprised that a lot of cereal packaging companies continue to use two different layers of packaging. It's a lot of waste. And while most of the materials are recyclable, to have a box and then a bag inside of that, when you could nowadays, just package it in a pouch, you could save a lot of materials. So if any of our listeners are packaging cereal, please take our words to heart.
Yes, please.
All right. So moving on to the next question. What is one thing you hate about packaging?
Well, specifically, here's an interesting one because we mentioned the Oreos and the resealability and the ease with which you can reopen it. That being said, they're packed so tightly that while there's 3 rows, only the middle one is easy to get the cookie out of without breaking it. The ones on the edge, the packaging actually gets in the way, and it's so tight that it doesn't really flex and move, and you do end up kind of breaking a cookie. It could be a bit of a pain.
Yeah, especially because, that's probably the number one cookie for dunking in milk. And I would imagine that um, the double and triple stuffed cookies must be particularly hard to deal with in that situation.
Oh, that's something interesting. I haven't done my research quite at that depth.
You've never had a double stuffed Oreo before?
I have, but not specifically for researching and paying attention to whether they were easier to get out of the packaging than the others were. I feel like I'm going to have to go on an Oreo run sometime this afternoon, strictly for scientific purposes.
Yeah, you'll get one of the original, then a double stuff and a triple stuff. And, this is important work we're doing here. We could change the world with these potentially life changing scientific studies.
If I'm anything, it's not selfless.
Awesome. So, moving on to the next question. Have you ever experienced wrap rage or getting angry at packaging that is hard to open?
I'm not going to lie. I was so glad to see that this was a question you were going to be asking because that made me realize that I'm not alone in being a nut who allows a package to get under my skin and take me off. I think for me, the ones that probably drive me, there's two, and they're probably, I guess they're both technically medical, but it's any package where it says tear here. It's really not obvious where that tear here is supposed to be, or you do tear here, but it doesn't go all the way across and it ends up like only kind of tearing, but it in a way that now it's almost impossible to finish what you started.
Yes, I totally understand what you're
That
talking about.
that will that will drive me nuts. And the other one that really will bug me is when it has like kind of a foil seal on a bottle that you're
Yep.
supposed to peel off, but there's no way anyone with normal fingernails could possibly get underneath it in order to be able to tear it. So I finally just get ticked off and I go find like a steak knife and I stab it like I'm putting it out of its misery.
That's hilarious, and you're not alone. I was unfamiliar with the term rap rage, but when I came across it, I could probably think about 50 times in my life where I've experienced the same thing. And it's interesting you say that tear here. There's various products I've come across that have that, and it's just like you said. Like maybe you get the corner up, and then it a little bit peels off, and if you try to like dig under that, it just exacerbates the situation, and it can become an absolute major pain. And then the foil seals you're talking about. There's products called seal bands, which some of them they have little perforations, and if you peel the perforation off, it comes off easily. But some are extremely attached to the product, and yeah, you do end up having to use scissors or a knife, which can be dangerous if you're in a bad mood due to packaging that is hard to open.
Yeah, I've never really thought of it as rage, but now as I look back, I realize that there was some bit of an evil joy that I got from feeling as though I was stabbing it. So, and I make sure it's a serrated knife because I want it, I want it to feel it.
Maybe we're on the cusp of a new type of comedy horror genre of film. We could, it'd be a not like a, it'd be kid friendly, non-violent. There's no blood. You're just attacking packaging that drives you insane, and the protagonist of the story loses their mind in the never-ending halls of rap rage.
I'm ready. We'll start a TikTok channel later next week, and the stories of wrap rage.
Fantastic. I love that. Well, that segues nicely into the next question, which is, would you be willing to pay more for a product if it had easy to open packaging?
I can't imagine myself honestly as angry as some of those sometimes and frustrating as they can be. Um, I can't see myself doing it for an ease of open. I could see myself doing it for like a resealability type deal, like we talked about with the cereal.
Right.
But as far as um, paying more because something's easier to open, I just can't see myself ever be in a situation where I'd make that conscious decision.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, the few times where I think I felt that way is probably technology products like computers or electronics, because I've come across some that are like virtually impossible to get out of the box. And if you end up getting wrap rage and you're trying to cut it with a knife or scissors, if you're dealing with like a three, 400, $1,000 piece of technology, you don't want to end up dropping it on the floor or scratching it or cracking it. So I would say that's probably the one setting where I would be willing to pay more for an easy to open package.
Yeah, and I guess they would have to also make me incredibly aware of the fact that, by the way, this is easy to open, to kind of catch my attention. I tell you somewhere that maybe could, if they told me there won't be a mess when I open it, because like I put together a little table the other day, and it came in a box, but it had that that those thin sheets of kind of the white. What's the white styrofoamy kind of feeling? I don't know what it's actually called.
Yeah, I know what you're
Um,
talking
but
about,
it,
but
but they made these. They were so thin, the sheets, that they basically crumbled. So as I was taking stuff out of the box, my floor was covered with this tiny white crumbled things, and then the static electricity starts to get a hold of them. So now you can't sweep them, you can't pick them up. They're stuck on you. They're stuck on everything. You can't throw them away because they won't let go of your hand, and that can be frustrating too.
yeah, I know what you're talking about. Those are styrofoam sheets. Styrofoam is used for that, for packaging peanuts, food packaging. Styrofoam clamshells looks, as you might expect, like the same aquatic sea creature, opens on both sides and then clicks shut. But yeah, styrofoam, when it breaks down into small pieces, it does become electrically charged. And I've had to, you know, pick it off my cat one piece by piece because when you get a new product, the cats, it's like a magnet. Like, ooh, there's a new box to get into, and if
Hmm.
there's little pieces of styrofoam, it gets stuck to their fur, and then I have to chase them around the house and hold them down and systematically remove each piece because I don't want them eating the styrofoam.
Oh, absolutely. I was more concerned about my dogs ending up with it on them because I knew, yeah, it was going to be a pain to get it off.
Very true. All right. Well, moving on to the next question. How important is sustainability in regard to product packaging to you as a consumer?
I would say that I unfortunately, and please everyone who's listening, don't send me hate mail. I'm not a super like conservation aware kind of person. Part of that probably could be because of where I live. In Texas, I guess it's not. It's just a thing, I guess. But I'm just not as alert and sensitive to it. So I'd say it's really not that big a deal. That being said, when I did read that, one thing that crossed my mind was all of the things that we buy that we have to put together, and to make it easier on us, they always include like Allen wrenches. And I did wonder how many Allen wrenches I've like thrown away or that are just out in the world because you get one every time you buy something that has to be put together.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I've definitely had quite a few. I'm a musician. I play guitar and keyboard, and when I can get my hands on a drum kit. And all of those types of items come with the little mini Allen wrenches. And it's funny because I've probably acquired about 20 or 30 of them over the past 10 to 15 years. And when I need one, I cannot find it. And then I'll be going through a junk drawer or cleaning my house and I find one. I'm like, oh, I'm going to put this somewhere where I'll remember it. And then the next time I need it, once again, I forgot where it is.
Oh, I put things in places where I'll remember them all the time and don't remember. Yeah.
Such is life. So the next question I'm going to assume is no. But might as well ask because it's just part of the process. Are you willing to pay more for a product if it has sustainable packaging?
I think if the messaging was done in a way that they were able to make me more aware of what buying the other really was doing,
Mhm.
then possibly. But for me, I'm at a point where I have to, you've got to show me that it's a legit thing that I should be concerned and do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's extremely important. I know that sustainability is extremely important to me now, but it really wasn't up until I'm going to say my mid to early 20s when I came across knowledge of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Apparently, there is a 5 mile wide
Mm.
artificial island, for lack of a better term, and it's just waste plastic because plastic that gets into our waterways and eventually makes it to the ocean, it gets caught in the currents, and in the Pacific Ocean, the currents sort of spiral around at one point, so all the plastics kind of gravitate to this one spot. So that was really eye opening for me, and it made me think more about it. But I can absolutely see how if the packaging doesn't even mention like, hey, this is biodegradable or this is made from 30% PCR, post-consumer recycled materials, you're probably not going to think about it. So any companies listening, if you're trying to, engage your customers to be concerned about sustainability and you're trying to be more sustainable, put a note on the packaging saying, hey, this is made out of X percentage of recycled material, or please recycle this when you're done because it is a recyclable material.
I'd even go as far as I think, hearing recyclable or biodegradable, repurposed, whatever. I think we've also heard it so much that maybe it's also become a little, we've become a little numb if we're, especially if like we're not really conscious about, you know, conservationism and whatnot. So for me, even having a message on the box that said, by using this versus something else, you're helping do something specific. It's saving something specific. If you could hit me a little bit more in the heartstrings in your messaging, it might take a little bit more on your packaging, but you also might pull me over.
Well, I appreciate that feedback. It's as someone who works in this industry, it's really why I started doing the Consumer Connections series within the podcast because it's easy to get into a trap and think, well, we'll interview people in our company, we'll interview our vendors, we'll interview other packaging companies, but this is the type of feedback I think is most important because, as a consumer, you're going to say things that is going to be enlightening to companies who produce packaging. And it's certainly been an enlightening conversation so far. And again, I appreciate your time. But with that being said, let's move on to the next question, which is, and you're the story catcher, so I'm hoping for a good one. Can you tell us a story about a product's packaging that really drove you to purchase that item? Like, did you find something in a gas station or a supermarket, department store? You didn't have any intention of picking something up and you saw something and you were like, oh, I need this in my life. I'm buying it.
I can tell you this, as I can remember as a kid, though, um, a packaging that I just got drawn into, and to this day, I'll still pick some up if I see some at the store, and that's Big League Chew.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it's almost like a tobacco pouch. I mean, I hate to draw parallels to that, but I I remember as a kid being like, this kind of looks like a pouch of chewing tobacco. It almost felt naughty.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe there was. Maybe there was just this like I'm being edgy with my chewing gum kind of vibe. But there was something. There was just something about it. It was different than the regular package that the gum came in. It looked cool. It had the guy chewing with the wad in his cheek, and um, yeah. So I can remember as a kid, Big League Chew packaging definitely always got me.
That's exactly the type of stuff that I was hoping to draw out of you. And, that's important because there was a psychological effect, an emotional effect. It made you kind of feel like an adult as a kid. I remember the baseball player who's really muscular and he's chewing on his chewing gum. And I used to buy the gum for the same reason. And I thought it was going to be like particularly excellent chewing gum, and I was disappointed to find that it was just regular chewing gum. But I liked how it came in shreds. It was like in small strips, which was
Oh yeah.
really really kind of different than a regular stick of chewing gum, which added to the whole experience.
Oh yeah, I mean the premise behind it and what it was trying to mimic is a horrible parallel. I mean, it was like the
Yeah.
last thing as a kid you probably your parent wanted you to be, mimicking, but it just felt good. It just felt good. But I think that with the packaging too. Like I said, we the story component. If you can tell me a little bit of a story with the packaging and connect with me somehow, especially from a sustainability thing. If I was going to buy a new monitor for my uh, workstation, and on the box it said something like, we do it for the ducks. I'm gonna My curiosity is gonna be piqued, and I'm gonna be like, what? And now I'm gonna want to look on the box and read a short little story about we do this with our packaging because the owner grew up near a lake, and his grandfather loved ducks, and a lot of packaging today does things to the environment that is doing this to ducks or whatever. Now I'm going to be kind of more like, I feel like this. I really am supposed to get this one because the guy's grandfather liked ducks, and I don't want to upset his grandpa.
And you owe it to the
That's going
ducks.
to get me more than exactly. And ducks stick together, and
Birds of a feather
that's a
do.
mighty duck reference there.
Is that from the Disney films?
Oh yeah, huge fan.
Me too. Man, that's a blast from the past. I was obsessed with the second movie. Man, I haven't thought about that in a long time. I was so into that movie that I asked my mother to sign me up for hockey, and she was like, "All right." And I could hear conversations with my dad, like, "Oh man, hockey gear is really expensive. I can't believe it." It's like whatever. But they, if I expressed interest, they would invest because they wanted to help me find passions in life. But fortunately for her, um, the first practice, which I wasn't actually playing, it was just to go, see a team that was already established and to kind of get the
Hmm.
finer points. And we had to be there for 5:30 in the morning, and I am not an early riser, and that was it. I was like, suddenly, Mom, I have no interest in playing hockey anymore.
Yeah, hockey sucks at 5:30 in the morning, for sure. The Disney Plus series, by the way, that they rebooted and brought back is absolutely incredible because Emilio Estevez comes back. It's really good. I'm not gonna lie, I'm an adult and I have a Mighty Ducks Banks jersey with the Banks name on the back. So
That's awesome. I'm all about it. I'll have to check it out. I mean, uh, yeah, I was a big fan. So now, just like the Karate Kid, that new series that they did on YouTube Premium or whatever it was, I got sucked into that as well. The nostalgia
oh, definitely.
factor, yeah, really great stuff. But yeah, we are coming up on the last question, which is, what is one thing that you wish that companies knew when it comes to packaging for their products?
There's a difference between childproofing and me not being able to open it.
Yes. So you're anti-adult proof packaging.
I mean, to a point, yes. Yes, I think that's a big deal. And the other would be, I wish more of them would do what you're doing and actually ask the people who are using the product what's driving them crazy, or what to us seems like a no brainer that they're not doing. For example, resealable cereal boxes.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, uh, I believe that we're connected to some various food packaging companies, and if they have cereal, I'm going to send this to them, a piece of content for assignment selling to move deals ahead, and maybe that'll help us to sell a few more flexible pouches. And while that was the last question, I did think of something over the course of this conversation when we were talking about, you hadn't bought a product on a whim because the packaging was so great, and you buy a lot of stuff online, like most people nowadays do. Um, do you think that the unboxing experience when you order something online plays into how you feel overall about the product? Like if the box, if you open it up and it's in a nice package and you unfold it, and maybe there's a little section where each electrical component is in its base and the instructions are, tucked in the right corner. Is the unboxing experience, does that have an effect on you at all as a consumer?
Um, Possibly on a repurchasing component. Like I'm more likely to look for an Elgato product that I can use in my studio first because I know their stuff comes packaged well, which makes it feel like it's worth more because they treat it like it's worth more. I think that would be a big deal. Um, as far as the unboxing, as far as it being an experience, I don't get too much, I think, out of that. Honestly, drives me nuts. People do like the whole unboxing videos. I hope I'm never in a sponsored position where they're like, we want you to do an unboxing video because it might be a deal breaker for me. Um, yeah, but so I can't think of, but I will, but I do definitely shout out and kudos to Elgato for packaging their products in a way that the message to me is we value our product. It's important for us that it's packaged nicely, neatly, securely, safely, and presented in a way that we're proud of. So I will give them kudos.
Would you say that their packaging might be considered luxury packaging? Like, is it a really, luxurious package? Because it sounds like the way that you describe it, luxury packaging is a multi-billion-dollar industry. For example, if you buy a $400 bottle of scotch somewhere, it'll often come in like a really nice uh, and cardboard box, and inside there's a foam insert that's custom made to go around it. Do you think there's an air of luxury to their products?
Yeah, because it's the same. The things are placed in molded, foam or containers or whatever. Everything is shaped and custom made to fit that particular product. So yeah, they definitely spend a little extra on it, as opposed to someone like some of the sandwich meats that maybe you buy that decided, hey, we were going to put a seal on it, but you're going to need to wear those glasses jewelry makers wear so that you can actually see and line up the Ziploc just right so it'll actually reclose again.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest pet peeves. It's funny you say that. I buy a lot of pre-sliced cheese, and yeah, the zippers never seem to actually work. So you got to end up folding it over, putting a paper clip on it or something to that effect. And if it's cheese or meat, like you have to reseal it. So that is very frustrating. So to any food producers who are listening out there, make your zippers actually zip on your cheese and meats, please.
Yeah. And to the sliced cheese people, well, I've got your attention. What is it lately with when I open the first flap of the plastic wrapped around that slice of cheese that it breaks off, and now I have to try to find the plastic again to continue to unwrap the slice of cheese. Just curious. It seems like it's something new.
Oh, well, if any of the packaging companies we're connected to has a solution for that, you'll be the first one to know. But with that being said, that was all of the questions. Chad, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I know it's a bit of an eclectic conversation, but I think your feedback is going to be very valuable to companies in our industry. So thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I almost feel like I should send you a check. It felt kind of like a therapy session. So I got a lot of stuff off my chest.
I'll have to keep that in mind. I mean, maybe I'm in the wrong career path at the moment. I can become a certified rap rage therapist.
There you go.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that does it for another episode of the Industrial Packaging Podcast with me, your host, Nathan Dube, Digital Marketing Specialist at Industrial Packaging. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you will tune in for the next one. But until then, I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.